Hey, MCE crew, one of the themes on this channel is the end of dollar supremacy. You all know, if you watch this channel for any length of time, that I believe that by the early 2030s, the US dollar will lose its prominent position as the world's reserve currency. Now, we did the video just yesterday. You can go back and check it out on what's going on in Russia, okay? And the bank runs, thanks to a lot of the sanctions that have been placed on Russia, and the fact that the ruble is losing value. Now, we talked about the fact that the ruble is the second oldest currency in the world today. The British pound sterling is the oldest. Okay, so that currency has been out there for a long time, but the difference between the ruble and the British pound sterling is that the ruble has never been the world's reserve currency. The pound sterling was the reserve currency prior to the dollar taking up that position. So we've got a situation where, I'm sure you know what's going on with the Ukraine and Russia, and the major countries of the world, the Western allied countries, are pushing back with a lot of economic sanctions. What this is doing, as I said a moment ago, it's eroding the value of the ruble, causing people to want to withdraw their money in other currencies. Okay, we saw those long lines in the previous video. And because of that, Putin and the people over in Russia and China, okay, are looking at this, and they're desirous of the acceleration of the end of the dollar supremacy. The reason for that is because they don't want to continue to operate under a regime whereby their policies can be impacted negatively by decisions made in Washington, D.C. Russia and China want more autonomy than that. And so when you talk about China, which is an incredibly large economy, okay, by some metrics larger than the U.S. economy, you know that they're going to want to do what's necessary to create supremacy in their own currency. And they're taking steps toward just that. Now, we're seeing it over in Russia. We're seeing how the people will behave when the dollar starts to lose its power position. People are going to want to move to other currencies, which is exactly what they're trying to do right now in Russia. People who are invested in hard assets like gold, real estate, silver, or quality companies, or if you have ownership of your own company, because just because your currency evaporates, just because its power evaporates, doesn't mean that people are going to stop needing goods and services. Okay, so economies adjust. The fact is that Putin has his mind made up to go the distance in Ukraine. If he has his mind made up to go the distance in Ukraine, come hell or high water, he's going to have to somehow address the crippling of his country's currency and economy. Left with few off-ramps, my guess, and I will link to this article, my guess is that Putin will push back on economic sanctions by allying himself further with China and even discussing with China the prospects of a monetary system outside of the current global monetary system, which is backed, of course, by the dollar. While the idea will likely be written off by those so-called economic experts, remember, the economic experts, 11 out of 12 times throughout the year, they get all of the forecasts wrong. They always, the headline is always, economists shocked, surprised. Numbers come in above economists' expectations or below economists' expectations. Okay, so, take these experts with a grain of salt. It's important to remember that even if such an idea doesn't succeed, it could still create chaos for global economic markets and life in the West. We're already in the midst of a supply chain crisis here in the United States. Now add to that the fact that A, Russia has tangible reserves in the form of oil and gold. Now remember, Russia also has another tangible asset. We just spoke of it. It's that real estate. So again, they're pointing back to hard assets. Russia has oil. Russia has gold. Russia has natural gas. Russia has, a big landmass, some of which is arable and able to, produce food on. So you can't count these people out, okay? These sanctions are put on them by the West, but that's not saying that other parts of the world, not allied as tightly with the West, not NATO countries, might not want to trade with them. Look at Cuba. We don't trade with Cuba, but the rest of the world does. So, now what they do with the money is a whole different story, whole different video. But Russia, in addition to having all that land, all that gold, and all of that oil and natural gas, Russia is a top supplier of imported gasoline to the United States. In 2021, Russia accounted for 21% of all U.S. gasoline imports, according to Forbes. So they could turn around and slap us with a form of sanction that would cripple the average American's ability to affordably fill up their tank. Number two, China is a major supplier. And so we went from Russia. Now we'll go and let's talk about China, because they're going to ally in trying to, put an end to dollar hegemony. China is a major supplier of basically everything we use in the West on a daily basis. China was the United States' largest supplier of goods imported in 2020, according to USTR. China is currently our largest goods trading partner with $559.2 billion in total two-way goods trade during 2020. Okay, so we are heavily reliant on Russia and China. So when we craft our foreign policy, just remember, we can't do so in such a way that would cause them, we shouldn't be doing so in a way that would cause them to retaliate against us. But that might be exactly what we're inviting here. Geopolitical wranglings are, complex business. So let me digress for a second, because there are a lot of people on Facebook that are questioning my stance on what's going on in Russia and the Ukraine right now. And I keep telling them I haven't necessarily formed an opinion one way or the other. I'm certainly not going to let a damn cable news network tell me what I should think. And a lot of people are not satisfied with that. How dare I actually take time to critically think? But this is part of that process, because our actions around the world have an economic effect on us as individuals throughout the world, whether you're in America, Canada, wherever you may be. Okay, so that's why we take the time to examine this. Okay, we're not trying to be first. We're trying to be right. Okay, that's what our goal is. So this prediction shouldn't surprise anyone that has been paying attention. That prediction being that Russia and China are going to team up to end dollar supremacy at some point, or to try to. Just 1 year ago, the idea of Russia and China working together to de-dollarize themselves made headlines. The Washington Post reported on the steps the two countries were collectively taking in April of 2021. China and Russia vowed to jointly de-dollarize, creating alternatives to the current system, the dollar-backed system, with a three-step plan that began a few years ago. First, both countries began to cut back on the proportion of their bilateral trade invoiced in dollars, privileging settlement in their own currencies. Okay. Second, they have sought to boost the renminbi's role as an international currency for payments and reserves, the renminbi being the currency out of China. To encourage wider adoption of its currency, China has given more than 30 countries renminbi access through bilateral swap agreements. China and Russia each scaled back their U.S. Treasury holdings, with Russia channeling cash into renminbi holdings. Okay? Renminbi holdings. And China has ramped up the digital currency drive. It began in 2014 with the goal of making it easier to hold the renminbi. All right, so that's what's going on out there. Again, I state if we keep up the foreign policy, we can no longer afford to run our foreign policy like we've been doing it for so many years. We are on the verge of having another superpower enter the fray, that being China. They've made no bones about the fact that China and Russia want to have a relationship to challenge the United States of America. And they're going to do so economically. So, again, what do you do? Well, let's talk practical stuff right here. Americans, you're going to have to understand that all of the marketing and, the fast cars, fancy clothes, big houses, you're going to have to start to adjust your definition of wealth. All right? Wealth is going to need to be defined by having financial security, and that won't look like the latest Benz in the driveway of your McMansion. That may look like a multi-acre property where you can grow your own food or sell the timber on the land or lease a portion of the land to, farms or different types of farming concerns, okay? Or, have livestock graze on a part of your land. That's going to be what wealth starts to look like in this country. True wealth, all right? Remember that book, The Millionaire Next Door? No matter how you go out and derive income, smart people are going to become more self-reliant, more community-based in their economic dealings. We're going to have to. Otherwise, you're going to lose absolute control of your financial destiny. All right. So those are some of the things that we're going to see. We're also going to see people owning their real estate outright or owning a substantial portion of it outright. We're going to see more people understanding the value in real money like gold and silver. And we're going to see people start to wake up to the reality that, banks are not necessarily a place. They're not a place at all where you can actually keep your money competitive with inflation. You're going to have to start thinking about these other representations of value in a world where by the early 2030s, Americans could be lined up at ATMs trying to get foreign currencies, trying to get at the renminbi, okay? Trying to change dollars for renminbi because dollars are plummeting in value. This could be our future, all right? And the way we're spending money in this country, it's a distinct possibility that other countries in the world are going to look at this situation. Now, China and Russia are looking at it from a standpoint of positional power positioning, okay, and being able to release themselves from the shackles of the U.S. foreign policy, which is initiated by financial sanctions. Okay, you really think these people are going to sit back, and you really think Xi over in China is going to be comfortable with sanctions if he decides that he wants to take Taiwan or that he wants to expand in the South China Sea? He don't want to be exposed to that at all. He's watching what's going on in Russia with those sanctions, and you better believe he's preparing for that. So that's what I think that I will continue to do. Not certainly telling you what to do, but hard assets, okay, self-sufficiency. Those are the definitions of wealth as we move further toward 2030. All right, guys. I'll talk to you soon. To learn more about how you can achieve financial independence, check out these videos we recently posted on the Money Changes Everything channel.